In the current political landscape, the relationship between education, immigration, and party politics is becoming increasingly fraught. Recent developments have highlighted the deep-seated tensions within the Democratic Party as it grapples with its identity and effectiveness in addressing the needs of working-class voters. From Michigan educators standing up against the Democratic establishment to the implications of Tulsi Gabbard's new role in national intelligence, the discourse surrounding these issues is both urgent and complex. At a recent Detroit Public Schools Community District meeting, educators voiced their concerns over the ongoing attacks on public education and immigrant rights. Phyllis, a middle school teacher and member of the Michigan Educators Rank-and-File Committee, urged her colleagues to rally against the Trump administration's policies, which she described as fascistic measures targeting undocumented workers. Her remarks echoed a sentiment growing among educators who feel betrayed by the Democratic Party, which they believe has failed to protect their interests and those of the communities they serve. Phyllis pointed out that the attacks on immigrants are not solely the product of Trump's presidency, rather they have been enabled by previous Democratic administrations. She criticized the Democrats for perpetuating a narrative of scarcity regarding educational funding while simultaneously allowing the wealth gap to widen under their watch. "We are fighting a dictatorship of the rich," she asserted, emphasizing the need for solidarity among workers to combat these systemic issues. This sentiment of disillusionment is reflected in broader critiques of the Democratic Party's alignment with corporate interests, as evidenced by various educators and activists calling for a break from traditional party politics. Many argue that reliance on the Democratic Party has led to a series of compromises that ultimately harm working-class interests. The frustration is palpable, as several teachers expressed doubts about the effectiveness of unions and political leaders in advocating for their needs. In a related context, Tulsi Gabbard's recent appointment as the Director of National Intelligence under President Trump has sparked a wave of discussion in her home state of Hawaii and beyond. Gabbard, once a rising star within the Democratic Party, is now seen as a controversial figure due to her alignment with Trump and her past criticisms of Democratic leadership. While some Republican leaders have celebrated her rise, viewing it as a sign of integrity and independence, others within the Democratic Party expressed disappointment and a sense of betrayal. Political analysts note that Gabbard's unique background, including her military service and ties to the Pacific region, may provide her with a distinctive perspective on national security issues affecting Hawaii and the broader Indo-Pacific area. However, her ability to navigate the complexities of national intelligence while maintaining her political identity will be closely scrutinized. Former Hawaii Governor Neil Abercrombie has emphasized the urgency of Gabbard's new position, suggesting that she will face immediate tests regarding national security threats. As these narratives unfold, they underscore a larger theme of political fragmentation within the Democratic Party and a growing dissatisfaction among constituents who feel left behind. The disconnect between the party's leadership and its grassroots supporters is becoming more pronounced, leading many to question whether the traditional party structures can adequately respond to the needs of working-class families and marginalized communities. In conclusion, the current political climate is marked by a struggle for power and representation at various levels, from local school boards to national intelligence. As educators continue to advocate for immigrant rights and educational funding, and as political figures like Gabbard navigate their roles in a polarized environment, it remains to be seen how these dynamics will shape the future of American politics. The urgency for a more inclusive and responsive political discourse is clear, and the coming months may provide critical insights into how these tensions will evolve. In a significant shift within the Kansas Republican Party, Mike Brown has announced that he will not pursue re-election as the state GOP chair after completing one term. Brown's decision comes after a 2-year tenure marked by noteworthy successes and considerable controversies. His departure opens the door for new leadership in a party that has seen both growth and challenges during his time at the helm. Brown cited personal reasons for his decision, emphasizing a desire to focus on family and individual pursuits while continuing to support the conservative movement in Kansas. "We've strengthened our supermajorities in the Kansas House and Senate," he remarked, reflecting on the party's achievements during his leadership. He underscored his pride in fostering greater communication with voters, restructuring the party's financial framework, and achieving election victories, all of which he views as critical accomplishments. Despite these successes, Brown's leadership style has faced scrutiny. His approach, described by some as extreme, was encapsulated in his controversial weekly newsletter, The Friday Files. Critics, including former party chair Mike Kuckelman, labeled its content as divisive and inflammatory, featuring provocative headlines that aimed to rally the base but also alienated moderate Republicans. Moreover, a Johnson County GOP event that included an effigy of President Joe Biden, which Brown claimed he was unaware of, reflected the contentious atmosphere surrounding his leadership. As Brown steps aside, only one candidate has surfaced to replace him: Danedri Herbert, a spokesperson for Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach. Herbert has expressed a desire to continue many of Brown's initiatives while promising a different tone in leadership. "I actually agree with Mike Brown on a whole lot of things," she stated, noting that her focus would be less on divisive rhetoric and more on the party's candidates and policies. Herbert's emphasis on unifying the party could signal a shift towards a more moderate approach, which some party members may welcome as they prepare for future electoral battles. Looking ahead, the Kansas GOP faces both opportunities and challenges. The groundwork laid by Brown has positioned the party favorably, particularly after recent elections that expanded its supermajority. However, as the political landscape continues to evolve, the new chairperson will need to navigate intra-party divisions and the broader national sentiments surrounding the Republican Party, especially in the wake of President Trump's administration. The Kansas State GOP's direction in the coming months will likely depend on how effectively Herbert can balance the party's core conservative values with a more inclusive and less confrontational approach, especially as they gear up for upcoming elections. Brown's exit marks the end of an era, but it also paves the way for potential revitalization and a redefined strategy that could resonate with a broader electorate in Kansas. As the political climate remains fluid, the decisions made by the new chair will undoubtedly shape the future of the state's Republican Party and the evolving landscape of U.S. politics. The race for the Minnesota U.S. Senate seat is heating up as former Governor Tim Walz contemplates a run for the position in the 2026 elections. This potential candidacy follows the announcement from incumbent Senator Tina Smith that she will not seek re-election after holding her seat since a special election victory in 2018. Walz's interest in the Senate seat emerges against the backdrop of a shifting Democratic strategy, particularly as the party seeks to navigate a challenging political environment. Walz, who served as Minnesota's governor since 2019 and was briefly a vice presidential nominee in the 2024 election, is weighing his options carefully. A source close to the governor indicated that he is not only considering a Senate bid but is also contemplating a third term as governor, a position he could pursue due to the absence of term limits in Minnesota. This dual focus is indicative of the strategic decisions facing Democratic leaders in a year where reclaiming Senate control could be pivotal. Smith's decision not to run again follows a similar announcement from Michigan Senator Gary Peters, adding to the complexities Democrats face as they gear up for the 2026 elections. The departure of these incumbents signals a potentially tumultuous election cycle, as Democrats will need to solidify their candidate slate to maintain competitiveness in critical races. Walz's potential candidacy could serve as a unifying figure for Minnesota Democrats, particularly given his background in previous electoral success. In addition to Walz, other prominent Democrats are eyeing the Senate seat. Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan has publicly declared her intention to seek the nomination, while U.S. Representatives Ilhan Omar and Angie Craig are also considered strong contenders. This crowded field could lead to a robust primary, with candidates needing to differentiate themselves in a party eager to rally support ahead of the elections. The stakes are high not just for Minnesota but for the national political landscape. With the 2024 election showcasing a divided electorate and ongoing conversations about the Democratic Party's direction, the outcomes of these races could influence party strategy and voter engagement in the years to come. As Walz weighs his options, his decision will be closely monitored not only for its implications in Minnesota but also for its broader impact on the Democratic Party's standing in the Senate. Looking ahead, the political dynamics in Minnesota will likely continue to evolve, especially as more candidates declare their intentions and begin campaigning. With each passing day, the pressure mounts for Democrats to present a cohesive front as they prepare for the 2026 elections, making Walz's eventual decision a pivotal moment for the party's future in the state and beyond. In a week marked by tumultuous political developments, Representative Lizzie Fletcher of Texas has taken to her constituents to share insights about the ongoing challenges in Washington. Returning from a busy week in the nation's capital just in time for Valentine's Day, Fletcher expressed her commitment to addressing the pressing concerns of her district, particularly as actions by the Trump administration have raised alarms across various sectors. One of the most significant issues Fletcher highlighted was the Trump administration's decision to effectively shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development (USAID). This controversial move has placed nearly all of the agency's employees on administrative leave, raising serious concerns about its impact on global health initiatives and farmers who rely on USAID to distribute their crops internationally. Fletcher noted this undermines our global influence and national security, emphasizing that the agency's operations are critical not only for international relations but also for local professionals engaged in global health projects. Fletcher also addressed the reinstatement of tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, a move that she argues violates long-standing trade agreements, particularly with Canada, the United States' largest trading partner in these materials. She joined her colleagues in sponsoring the Prevent Tariff Abuse Act, aimed at preventing the imposition of such tariffs without congressional approval under the guise of a national emergency. The attacks on consumer protections were another focal point of Fletcher's letter. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau (CFPB), established in response to the 2008 financial crisis, has faced unprecedented challenges under the current administration. Fletcher expressed her outrage at efforts led by Elon Musk's team to dismantle the agency, which has returned over $21 billion to consumers. "We must restore the CFPB's operations to protect American consumers," she stated, reflecting her commitment to safeguarding financial rights amidst growing concerns about regulatory rollbacks. In an equally alarming development, President Trump announced intentions to close the Department of Education immediately. This drastic decision threatens to disrupt billions of dollars in federal funding essential for K-12 schools and college tuition assistance. Fletcher underscored the vital role of the Department of Education in ensuring equitable access to quality education, stating this would have a devastating impact on students nationwide. Fletcher also provided updates on congressional activities, including the passage of a controversial budget resolution by House Republicans that proposes significant spending cuts while increasing the debt limit to fund tax cuts. This budget, which Fletcher described as a contract against America, has been met with fierce opposition from Democrats who argue it will disproportionately harm working families, seniors, and veterans. In legislative efforts, Fletcher introduced the Prematurity Research Expansion in Education for Mothers Who Deliver Infants Early (PREMIE) Reauthorization Act, aimed at improving maternal and infant health outcomes. She also co-sponsored several bills focusing on critical issues such as national security, scientific integrity, and consumer protection. As the week concluded, Fletcher reiterated her commitment to her constituents and emphasized the importance of unity and resilience in facing the multitude of challenges ahead. With a busy schedule ahead, including events to engage with her district, she remains focused on advocating for the needs of her community and addressing the implications of federal policies that could adversely affect them. Looking forward, Fletcher's proactive approach signals potential continued advocacy against the administration's policies, reflecting a broader effort among Democrats to reclaim legislative ground and protect critical services for the American public. As she prepares for the upcoming weeks, the impact of these developments will undoubtedly shape the narrative in Washington, underscoring the importance of congressional oversight in maintaining the integrity of federal agencies and programs. In a rapidly evolving political landscape, the intersection of law, governance, and public perception has taken center stage. As the Trump administration faces increasing scrutiny and legal challenges, various court actions are underscoring the critical role of the judiciary in maintaining checks and balances within the U.S. government. Recent events highlight not only the potential for conflict between the executive branch and the judiciary, but also the implications for public trust in the legal system. Over the past few weeks, more than 10 federal courts have temporarily halted or rejected actions taken by the Trump administration on issues ranging from fiscal policies to citizenship rights. Legal analysts note that a significant number of lawsuits against the administration's early actions are currently pending. Adding to this tension, statements made by top Trump advisor Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance have raised concerns regarding the administration's willingness to comply with judicial rulings. In a notable case, a federal judge expressed dissatisfaction with the administration's efforts to adhere to court orders, further complicating the relationship between the branches of government. The Supreme Court has long established that compliance with court orders is fundamental to the rule of law. As articulated in previous rulings, all orders and judgments must be complied with promptly. When faced with non-compliance, federal courts have a suite of tools at their disposal to compel adherence or impose penalties. One of the primary mechanisms is the power of contempt, which can be exercised in both civil and criminal contexts. Civil contempt primarily aims to enforce compliance, while criminal contempt serves to punish disobedience, potentially leading to fines or even jail time. Historically, public officials, including past presidents, have generally respected court orders, reinforcing a tradition of adherence to judicial authority. However, the current political climate presents a different narrative, as some elected officials openly challenge court rulings. The last widespread defiance of judicial authority occurred during the civil rights movement, when Southern governors resisted federal mandates on school desegregation. President Eisenhower's intervention at that time underscored the necessity of upholding the constitutional process, a precedent that may be tested anew. Amidst this backdrop, the U.S. Supreme Court's approval rating has notably shifted, climbing above 50% for the first time in nearly 3 years. Following a series of decisions perceived as favorable to conservative interests, public sentiment toward the court has improved. Recent major rulings include reinstating access to the abortion pill mifepristone and overturning a ban on bump stocks, an accessory that enables semi-automatic weapons to fire rapidly. These decisions reflect the court's pivotal role in shaping contentious issues such as abortion rights and gun regulations. As the Supreme Court approaches critical decisions regarding presidential immunity, the implications could resonate deeply within the political arena. The court's upcoming ruling on whether a president can be criminally prosecuted for official acts could directly impact former President Trump, who is currently facing multiple legal challenges. Legal experts suggest that the ramifications of this decision may extend beyond individual cases and influence the broader understanding of executive power. In summary, the current legal landscape reveals a struggle between the executive branch and judicial authority, with potential ramifications for public trust in government institutions. As the Supreme Court prepares to issue pivotal rulings on issues of national importance, the interplay between law and politics will remain a focal point for analysts and citizens alike. The coming weeks and months will likely prove critical in determining the future of judicial compliance, executive accountability, and public confidence in the rule of law.